if this is connected, this is disconnected. Family, love, faith, that's what we build our family on. And if you do that, we'll be a family forever. And we build on this, and then all of a sudden, who's right? Whose reality is true? You have that if and then. I see, let's say somebody gets in a wreck and they have a car wreck and there's a big pain through the car wreck. Let's say you're on a date with someone and you get a car wreck. Okay, you're driving and you're like holding hands and you feel this really love, and then someone smashes into you and get a car wreck. And then from then on, you no longer want to date for some reason. You're like, I just don't feel like dating anybody. Know why? You're like, I just feel disassociated. I don't want to talk anymore to people. Well, let's say every time you see a car, you get this pain inside of you, or every time you see a boy, maybe if you're a girl driving and you're a boy, every time you see a boy, now you feel pain. So then it's an if-then thing. If I see, or when I see a boy, or when I see someone I like, then I feel threatened. Then I feel like I'm going to die. Then I feel like everything's going to end. And we don't connect it to that pain or disconnection. So then the program could be, I'm going to die if I actually am with someone. So then therefore, you're going to do everything in your whole being not to be with somebody because you feel like you're going to die, right? And I know this might sound crazy, but this is what I deal with every day with people. Like, it's just programs put in people's bodies. Now, if we were conscious of these, we'd be like, that's stupid. I shouldn't believe that. But most of us aren't conscious of them, right? We just have things happening to us and we don't know why. So some of you know buttons to push. How many have kids? How many have kids in here? How many of your kids know your buttons? Like what to say or do to kind of like get that response? How many have a spouse that kind of knows some buttons that they could push, or a brother or a sister, or a mom or a dad that they're like, hey, if I say this, I know it's going to irk you a little bit. They've just found the if-thens, and which is really cool because they're actually showing you the program. How can you know what the program is if you're never triggered by people? You can't. So when I get triggered, I thank them. I get excited. I'm like, oh, and this happens, I feel this way. Now, when my bank account does this, when I don't see like going financially, when I don't see all the numbers and things, I feel out of control. Interesting. Well, there's a pain and a disconnection association. And what's the statement? You can come up with the statement, figure out what it is, and then we can work through and align it. So if somebody does something that hurts you, instead of looking at it as a really like, how could they do such a thing? Why would they say that? Which shuts you out of the whole picture and is now a blame statement. Now you have no control over it and it's all about them. But what if I switched that and said, interesting, that person's reacting that way because they have been through an experience that created an if-then program in them, and they're actually seeking for help. And that's why they're going through all that chaos. Now, if they created one in me or it stimulated something in me, then I'd look at it in myself and say, this is good. Every trigger takes up space. Every reaction takes energy. If you could use that energy for something else, what else could you do on the planet? A better relationship. You could have more money. You could have better health. What is energy? With that, let's dive into one of my favorite things to teach. Circle of connection. Because what we're going to go through taps into all four of these pieces, especially on relationships. Here's a cool testimonial just about the power of this. And she says, we have been totally changed in our relationship from that very moment. And mind you, we were on the verge of divorce. We feel more in love with each other than we did ever in our 40 years of married life. That's easy. I can do that too. Simply by applying some of these principles. Align myself to my husband's higher self and what brings him joy. We laugh together so much now. I have thoroughly enjoyed doing some of these favorite activities that previously would bore me to tears. We've been married for 30 years now, and it's wonderful to find another piece of the puzzle and take our marriage from good to great. Okay, What is the circle of connection? Here it is. Circle of connection. So we talked about these disconnections, right? So if you have an if-then statement, it's because there was a pain that happened during that time that creates this if and then. That is from a disconnection. If this is connected, this is disconnected. It's a separation. Okay? Separation is a disconnection. You can be through a physical pain, disconnection. You can be through verbal, like somebody narcissistic or saying bad things or doing things to you, hurting you, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, disconnection. A disconnection is having your reality, something that you believe is real. So let's say you're like taught, so little Tyler back years ago, hey, family, love, faith, that's what we build our family on. And if you do that, we'll be a family forever. And we build on this, and then all of a sudden, divorce. My reality was this. So I had this reality around everything was faith, family, fun, like everything is there. Then all of a sudden, this thing out of nowhere, divorce. Not in my reality. That I didn't understand. So it caused a disconnection. Okay? And then you go through and you have another disconnection. And another, and another, and another. And these disconnections are forms of pain that defy your reality. And then it creates these pains that if you don't connect, cause if-then statements. Like, oh, well, now Tyler, so I took on a lot of these during this, where it was like, oh, now if I'll never be able to get married and keep a marriage. It's one of my things because I was afraid of that and I saw it over and over and over. And so these patterns showed up. So the circle of connection comes up with 4 things: communication, likability, understanding, and reality. If all the pain comes from disconnections, then the number one goal to improve a relationship, to change anything, should be to what? Connect. Exactly. But wouldn't it be advantageous to really get good at connecting? Like if this was really true, if all pain and disassociation was just from disconnections, and therefore if I connect, it's all going to be better in my marriage, in my money, in my health, in all forms, then I would become obsessed, which this is why I do what I do, with connecting, because that is the solution. So here's how. These 4 pillars, communication, likability, understanding, and reality, are ways to connect. It's a circle. So when one affects the other. They all affect each other. You can consciously tune into all 4. When you do that, connection happens very quickly. Very quickly. If you just do one, they will all improve, but a lot slower. So if you want it fast, what should you do? 4. Right? Okay, so circle of connection, communication, likability, understanding, reality, connection. So communication is when I speak something, like right now I'm communicating one way, but I'm also seeing your reactions. So there's an answer to my sending out the communication. So I'm seeing it and I'm like, oh, Candace, I see her reacting and taking notes and flipping the page. And I see Mark and he's like acknowledging and changing his like, oh, okay, kind of eating it up. And then Jared standing and looking at the screen and doing all this stuff. So I'm seeing, and then Desiree, and she's like staring at the screen and doing these things and having these ahas. Or these, oh no, Tyler's looking at me. Whatever it might be, right? So it's like, okay, so we're seeing all these reactions, but we're communicating, right? There's a communication going on. And when you communicate, you can connect. So that's a piece. You don't even have to know the words. Communication can be physical communication, like body language. I'm not seeing you guys speak, but we're communicating, right? I'm seeing what you guys are doing, and based off your reactions, I can communicate and tailor it back. Likability comes down to forgiveness and acceptance and being okay. So if I want to form likability around something, have more likability, I need to have forgiveness towards that thing. I need to become okay with that thing. And I need to feel that that thing is all right. Like it's okay. I forgive it, and that's okay. All right. In sales, people call it rapport. They build rapport. In life, I call it connection. It's what we do as human beings. We like to feel connected. So if I find something that I like or appreciate, we're going to feel more connected. So one of the things that I find in relationships that separates people is that likability piece, a big one, where someone has a big change, where now they don't like the same things that they like or you like, and it's hard to build rapport. Maybe they change religions, they do something that is so drastic, so big that the connection is separated. And this happens often with kids as they grow older, or different things that they like when they're younger, and then they like different things when they're teenagers and older. And if you can't form a likability around the things that they like, you'll feel what? Disconnected. You'll feel disconnected. So one of my first clients that I had back years ago, this was when I was struggling trying to get any clients to come. And I ended up selling her for a $1,500 program, which this like fed my wife and I for like 2 months. So it was like a big deal. It was on a plane and I hadn't sold anything. I had like $400 left in my bank account and I was just at the bottom. And I ended up enrolling this woman to a $1,500 program to work with me one-on-one. How many would love that? Now it's $100,000 to do that. But back then it was only $1,500. So she got a good deal. So she worked with me and I was trying to teach her how to like sell stuff because that's what I was trying to sell her on. About halfway through the program, she said, stop. I just want you to teach me how to connect with my son, my teenager, because it's something that I'm really good at, like the relationship piece. And I was like, really? You don't want to learn how to like make more money? And she's like, I don't even care about that. Like, just teach me how to connect with my teenager. And I said, well, what is he like? And she's like, well, he's just playing video games all the time. And I asked, well, what video game does he play? She's like, well, I don't even know. I said, well, there's your problem. You don't even know what he's doing. How can you connect with him? You can't. You're so disconnected from his reality that you have no association of what's going on in his world. His world's his video game. And you can't even connect there. So her homework was to study the game, get like a knowledge on the game, understand what it is, and actually be able to communicate about the game. And she started to do that. And it was so cool. The next couple weeks, she was like lit up. She's like, my son and I are talking every day. It's like the best thing ever. I feel like we've had this connection never before. And I was like, only because you had that likability and you started to understand his reality. Because she was always trying to stop him from playing. And I said, well, you're trying to disconnect him from what he wants. Now, I'm not saying an advocate or one way or the other. I was just teaching how to connect, right? But if you want to help somebody actually influence them to change, you got to first go there and understand them. Then you can influence them to change. Most people try to stop them from change or stop them and get them to change without ever connecting. And then they fight and then they'll withdraw. So that's likability. Reality. Let's talk about that. Reality is, let's imagine there's this dude. How many have read the book Real Love? It's a really good book. I like to share that. So if you haven't, it's a good read. Let's say there's this guy and he's swimming. And this is called water. That's water. He's swimming. I've never drawn before. Okay, water. He's swimming in water. Here's some waves. And he's swimming. And then there's this person next to him. And he's starting to sink. And he grabs onto this person and shoves this person under. And he's pushing the person under, but he's now able to breathe. So anyone who's ever been trained as a lifeguard, they know the reaction that if someone's drowning, they're going to grab onto whatever's around, including a human being, right? Which can be dangerous because then you can drown, right? If you're trying to save them. So that's why it's important to know this. Now, this person, their reality is I'm drowning, I'm dying, and I need help. That's their reality. But this person who's swimming around them. Maybe they didn't know they were drowning. They're just next to them, swimming. And all of a sudden, they're getting dunked under. What's their reality? What's this person's reality? If this is person A and this is person B, and they're just swimming together, and all of a sudden A shoves B under with no sign or signal. They're just shoving them under. What's B's reality right now? Yeah, I need air. What are they going to think of A? A is trying to kill me. Yeah. A is a horrible person. They're killing me. Why are they doing this? How could they be so mean? I'm just swimming next to them. They are literally trying to drown me. That's their reality. Right? Their reality is they are a killer and a narcissist, and they are trying to kill me. And then A is over here thinking, I am drowning and need help. And I'm just grabbing onto whatever's around me, and I don't even care what's around me. Two different realities. Who's right? Whose reality is true? Stanley says both. Sue, yep, both. Both are equally right. Now, most of the time, B will spend all their time to convince A why they are right. My reality is right. You are killing me. And until you see that, you got to change your way of thinking. You're drowning me. And A is going to be like, no, my whole goal is I got to convince you why I'm right. And they're like, they don't want to admit that they're drowning many times because they don't even know their reality. They're like, hey, I'm just doing what I do. Become a stronger swimmer. You got to understand why I'm right. Stop sinking. They don't realize that they're sinking. Both are right. Both are going to work all day to try to convince the other one why they're right. And both are going to fail completely if you try to convince the other person of your reality. But what if B starts to ask good questions about A and really understands, why are they pushing me under? I'm curious. What makes you compelled to do this? Do you realize that this is happening? It's not about me anymore, it's about them. And I start to ask good questions. And I'm asking this person questions to understand why they are doing this. When I can understand their reality, I change, which then my reality changes. If this person drowning asks enough questions and they finally see that this person is drowning, they're going to be like, oh, maybe I should back off a little bit and give them something to float on. I need to change my approach because if I keep living this way, they're going to drown me over and over and over. And no matter what I tell them, they're going to still do it because now I understand their reality. So now I can actually do things differently to get a different result and see the change inside that person. It all comes circle of connection. So understanding and reality are really important. Those come through the words and the meanings behind the words. Hey, what's up? I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you would like to learn more about what you just experienced or watched, then in the description, I actually have written a book called The Alignment Effect. And in the book, we go in details of how to align and the power inside of you. So if you'd like to learn how to get results a lot faster and reprogram not just your mind, but your cellular memory, then check out the description and grab that book called Alignment Effect. It will completely alter how you think and live your life. Was it me? No, it was each and every one of you. So we all chose to do that. No one forced you. No one made you. You chose, which is freaking awesome.